back after a fresh Olympic winter break, and now the stretch run for the Walter Cup kicks into overdrive. Welcome to PWHL Recap. My name is Scott McGregor. Our top story, Victoire versus Sirens. Who's going to get the match? Who's going to get the win here? Let's find out. It's time to find out. Welcome to Sports for Beginners. This is the show where I cover the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Blue Jays, and take you on a journey through the world of sports. From the fans' perspective, here is your host, Scott McGregor. Let's have some fun. Montreal versus New York. What's going on, PWHL fans? What's going on? Those who have joined us for PWHL Recap and those who have joined us for hockey in general. Great to be back with you. My name is Scott. Today, the topic of conversation is the Sirens. We have it here on a shared screen right now, looking at the primer for Thursday's game, the 26th of February 2026 at the time we are recording this. It is Sunday, March 1st, 2026. And as we take a look at our coaching matchup between Greg Fargo and Corey Chevry, we take a look back at where the team records for Montreal and New York were heading in to opening day past the Olympic winter break. The New York Sirens come out of the Olympic winter break with Taylor Girardi eligible to return to action after her 3-game suspension, earlier known as a 4-game suspension, but it was reduced to a 3-game suspension, which ultimately means she is able to return to action when these two teams clash on Thursday, February 26, 2026. The Sirens come out of the Olympic break and went into the Olympic break with a record 7-0-3-6, fourth place in the PWHL standings at the time of this game and before this game began with 24 points. Their top scorer was Kristina Katalenkova. 16 games played for Kristina Katalenkova. 11 goals, 1 assist, 12 points. She is the top scorer for the New York Sirens as of this game's begin. New York coming off their last game on January 28, 2026, which was a shootout loss to the Boston Fleet. Final score 4-3 in favor of the Boston Fleet. As we speak with you, the records for both of these teams have changed since this game went final, and the record for the teams of conversation coming up for the teams have also changed. Whoops, I went over to Montreal's latest game in the primer, my bad. But speaking of Montreal, their record coming out of the Olympic winter break and going into the Olympic winter break, they had 20 and were in third place in the PWHL standings, coming in with a record at the Olympic winter break, 7-3-0-5, 27 points. Top scorer, Marie-Philippe Poulin, who in 15 games has 7 goals and 7 assists. All told, she has 14 points in 15 games. Montreal's last victory prior to this game was a 3-0 shutout win against the Toronto Scepters at home on January 28, 2026. For the 2025-2026 season series between the two squads, which wraps up on March 28th in Detroit with Montreal as the host team. Montreal leads the season series in points all time, 26-16. New York leading 6-3 in points for the season series, with victories coming on January 2nd, 2026, 4-3. January 18th, also was a victory for the New York Sirens, 2-1 in Washington. Anyways, Montreal with the opening series win 4-0 Montreal on November 25th, 2026, when the teams first met. They have since met on January 2nd, 2026, January 18th, 2026, and at the time of our recording, they have had their fourth of 5 meetings between the two squads, in which the final score was 4-1 in favor of Montreal. What we should know from this game's pre-game primer, the Victoire had 9 players compete in the Olympic Winter Games Milano Cortina 2026, tied with the Scepters for the most in the PWHL. Montreal is one of 3 squads, along with Ottawa and Seattle, to have players from both the US, including Haley Scamora, and Canada, Erin Ambrose and Renee Desbiens, Marie-Philippe Poulin, Laura Stacey, Katie Tabin, who went head-to-head in the gold medal final. Montreal also had players representing 5 different countries, including Sandra Abstreiter, Lena Lingjumblom, who represented Sweden, Sandra Abstreiter, who represented Germany, and Natalie Melinkova, who represented Czechia, tied with Boston for most in the PWHL. Couple of quick things to note here before we get down to business. The Sirens lost to the Fleet 4-3 in a shootout, as we mentioned, on the road in their final game before the break. New York, coming into this game, was winless in its last 3 games, 0-2 and 1, after going 5-0, 1-0 in its previous 6 games. The Sirens have scored multiple goals in 10 straight games, their longest such streak all time. Thursday's game was the first game back from the PWHL's Olympic winter break, and the second and final time the Sirens will host the Victoire at the Prudential Center this season. It was New York's Black History celebration as part of the PWHL Unity Game Series, honoring Black history creativity and the ongoing contributions of Black artists, leaders, music, cultural performance, and in-arena recognition. The Unity game creates space for reflection, celebration, and meaningful engagement with Black communities. With that said, let's dive right into the game. To do that, we are going to go ahead and stop the share. There we go. So now we can spotlight the netminders and the officiators for this game. First of all, as mentioned, our head coaches are Corey Chevry on the Montreal Victoire side and Greg Fargo on the New York Sirens side of things. With that all being said, let's get right down to our netminders before we hit our first break of the show. And in doing so, we will do that after we get to Thursday night's officiating crew. But first, let's get to our netminders. In goal for Greg Fargo, he would start Kaylee Osborne in goal between the pipes, but she would later be replaced by her backup, Callie Shanahan. Those are the number 82 and number 37. Number 82 took on number 35 between the pipes, with number 37 and number 30 on the bench if needed. Number 37 was needed for the New York Sirens, as Greg Fargo did pull Kaylee Osborne, but there was also a play where Montreal scored, but play was called back due to goalie interference on a challenge, it looks like, or rather a goal review. I'll have to look back when I rewatch the game again. I didn't watch it the day of the game, but I did watch it when it was available on the YouTube channel. But that's besides the point. Sandra Abstreiter backing up Montreal Victoire goalkeeping starter number 35, and Renee Desbiens, who would get the start for the 7 p.m. game that saw the officiating crew, as we look at our game center shared screen for just a little minute. Referees like number 11, David Elford, number 39, Lacey S., and what we call in the men's game, linesmen. In the women's game, they are referred to as linesperson, and those were Heidi Niskanen, wearing the number 0, I guess we could say, but there was no number added there as well. Anton Bijold Rooks, wearing the number 72 as one of the two lines persons. And those were our officiators. Okay, folks, we're about 14 minutes into the show. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Montreal versus New York. How did it fare? How did it go down? The scoreboard, penalties, scoring, plus the 3 stars when PWHL Recap continues.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Hey Allie, did you know we have a books panel?
I did not know that. When is it?
It takes place on the last Friday of each month at 7:30 p.m. Eastern.
Where we have fun and engaging conversations.
About a book that one of the panelists picks.
So, how can I learn more about the show?
To learn more, please visit bookspanel.ca. While you're there, subscribe to the newsletter so you never miss an update. Besides, it's free. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
The Books Pen is part of the Musa Slobodian Network, where good conversations happen.
To learn more about the network, please visit themusaslobodiannetwork.ca. While you're over there, hit subscribe so you never miss a network update. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Keeping things rolling here on PWHL Recap, the PWHL game of conversation here on Sports for Beginners. PWHL Recap is Montreal versus New York, the second and final time Montreal and New York will meet at the home of the NHL's New Jersey Devils. You heard that right, fans. Will be the home for a game between the Montreal Victoire and the New York Sirens this hockey season, but it's not quite the finale of the series yet. That comes our way on March 20th between the two squads. But how did this game end the way that it ended, which was by a final score of 4-1 in favor of Montreal? We have our trusty notes to help us out, but it's time to share the screen and break this game down. Starting off in the first period and starting with what we call on the PWHL Recap program, the goal scorers. Now, please note there were no penalties in the first period of play, so we are going to focus on the goal scorers for the first period of play, and then we will move on to the third period and second period of play, including the penalties in the second and third period of play. Only one goal scored on the power play by both teams. When did it happen? You can see it on the screen, but let's focus on the first period of play. Back after a restful for some players that did not participate in the PWHL Olympics at Milano Cortina 2026, back refreshed and ready to go. Well, the Sirens, I don't know if you want to call them sleeping on the job here, but they weren't ready yet to score goals until the second period. So Montreal got things started with number 17, Dara Gregg, opening the scoring at the 5-minute mark of the first period of play. Number 25, Linda Jigblum, her first assist of the season. Natalie Melinkova, her third assist of the season. Time of the goal, 5 minutes. Montreal out in front, 5 minutes into the first period. Nothing Montreal. But 47 seconds later, the former Siren, Jade Downey Landry, scores her first goal of the season to give Montreal a 2-goal cushion. Lara Stacey picks up her 7th assist of the season. Cheyenne Darkangelo picks up her second assist of the season, 5 minutes and 47 seconds into the game. It is 2-0 Victoire over the New York Sirens. It would wind up being 3-0 before the end of the frame at the 10-minute mark, 10 minutes and 7 seconds of the first period, as Skylar Irving grabs her first PWHL goal and first goal of the season. 3-0 Montreal at the end of one period of play. No penalties called on either side of the ice. So off we go to the second period of play, where first and foremost, I do want to mention that there was a goal taken off the board for Montreal, who would have gone up 4-0, but instead it's 3-1 after 40 minutes of play. But here's the penalties that took place prior to a goal that came a little earlier than expected, almost at the 6-minute mark, almost there. First penalty of the game came at 5 minutes and 37 seconds in the second period. Went to Montreal Victoire, number 98. Oh, no, I should say number 19. Caitlin Willoughby, 2 minutes for tripping at 5 minutes and 37 seconds. At 5 minutes and 57 seconds, a couple seconds later, 10 seconds to the, actually 20 seconds after the penalty was called on Caitlin Willoughby, Casey O'Brien shoots and scores. It's her 5th goal of the season. Maja Nyland Person with her 4th assist of the season. Sarah Fillier with her 10th assist of the season. PPG for NY, and the Sirens are on the board. It's Victoire. Later in the frame, number 98 of the New York Sirens, Christine Katalinkova, 2-minute minor hooking was the call at 8 minutes and 12 seconds. Montreal's turn to go to the power play. On this opportunity, their first of the game, unsuccessful, as New York, although they don't score, which is good for Montreal, although they don't score, the Sirens kill this one off. Final penalty of the frame went to Montreal, number 44, at Amanda Boulier. Number 44, Amanda Boulier, 2-minute minor for boarding at 10 minutes and 41 seconds. Montreal gets free of that. So at this time, the New York Sirens, who scored on their first attempt of the evening on Thursday night, are 1 for 2 on the power play. They would get 2 more opportunities in the third, but not before they got unlucky in the third period with an early penalty to Christine O'Neill, 2-minute minor for tripping. As we dive into the third period now, Kristen O'Neill, 2-minute minor for tripping. Time of the penalty, 1 minute 40. And it's Lena Lundgrenblom who gets her first goal of the season and of PWHL Action. And it's a PPG for MTL to give Montreal a 4-1 lead. Laura Stacey on the assist, her 8th of the season, 2nd of the game, 8th of the year. Nicole Gosling with her 5th assist of the season. Time of the goal, 3 minutes, 43 seconds. So Kristen O'Neill's penalty does get scored on for a power play goal. Just a second. If I pronounced it wrong, I apologize in case I did. But on to the other third period penalties, which went against Montreal. The first, at 5 minutes and 11 seconds, went to Katie Tabin, number 9. Katie Tabin, 2 minutes for tripping at 5 minutes and 11 seconds. And then Nicole Gosling, who is number 61 on the Montreal Victoire, 2 minutes for illegal body checking. Time of the penalty, 9 minutes, 1 second. Montreal does kill off those penalties, and as you can see on our screen here, as I bring it up a little bit more back, ultimately the Victoire win the game 4-1, but New York goes 1 for 4 on the power play. Montreal 1 for 2 on the power play. In the game, they spent 8 minutes in the box with 4 penalties taken. Their penalty kill, who was only scored on once, went 3 for 4 on the penalty kill. Of the 4 times they went on the penalty kill, New York had 2 women, I should say, in the penalty box, equivalent to 4 minutes spent in the penalty box as we speak. They go 1 for 2 on the PK. killing off the opening penalty that they took. But in the third period, as we saw, Kristen O'Neill not able to get out of the box with a successful penalty kill by the Sirens as Montreal scores on that opportunity. We also can see the face-offs now, but we'll get to that momentarily, as well as our shots on goal momentarily. Winding down the program here before we go to our next break, and while we are on a shared screen, it's time now for your 3 stars of the game from Thursday night, February 26, 2026, and your 3rd star went to Sirens forward. Do I have that right? Yes, Sirens forward, Casey O'Brien, number 26. 1 goal, no assists, 1 point. Your 2nd star went to number 25 of the Montreal Victoire, Lena Jungblom. 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points. But your 3 stars, and Renee Desbiens, your 1st star, Lena Jungblom, your 2nd star, and your 3rd star, Casey O'Brien. With that said, we will take a break. When we come back to PWHL Recap, a look at the final scores around the PWHL since the Olympic break came to a close. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Montreal has since played their next team that followed the game against the New York Sirens. But has New York yet played Boston? No, they have not. So who else has played? Find out those scores from February into March as PWHL Recap rolls on. When we return, it's time for the play of the game. Scoreboard February to March, minus this game in February, which kicked it off after the Olympic break, plus the women's hockey player of the game, all that, and the game totals from Victoire versus Sirens, Thursday, February 26, 2026, when we return.
Have you ever wondered about the books we've been reading throughout the week?
Are you looking for friendly banter and technology tips at the same time?
Then you've come to the right place.
Check out The Ali and McCara Show. It airs live on Sunday afternoons at 3:30 p.m. Eastern.
Until spring. In the spring, we'll switch back to Mondays.
To learn more about the show, please visit thealiandmccarashow.ca.
While you're there, subscribe to the newsletter so you never miss an update. And besides, it's free.
Enter your email address and hit subscribe.
The Ali and McCara Show is part of the Musa Slobodian Network, where good conversations happen.
To learn more about the network, please visit themusaslobodiannetwork.ca.
Enter your email and hit subscribe so you never miss network updates.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo. 2 powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
I wonder if I could make it. It's almost getting to 8 o'clock p.m. and I am still a few more steps away from home to get to my computer to listen to CNT Radio's Cosmopolitan Culture Club. The best of the best music from around the world. Can't wait. I think I made it. CNT Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time.
Continuing things on here on PWHL Recap, my name is Scott McGregor. Topic of conversation is the Montreal Victoire and the New York Sirens. At the time of this game ending, the Montreal Victoire improved 3-0-5. The New York Sirens went to 7-0-3-7 after this game. Their current records against each other at the time of game time before this game went down. So far this season, coming into the game, They were 7-0, 3-6 for the Sirens. Montreal 7-3-0-5. Montreal 8-4-1-1 in the first two seasons. And in this current season, coming into the action, New York is Montreal 1-2-0-0. Okay, folks, the breakdown is done. Women's hockey player of the game coming up momentarily, as well as the play of the game. But first, let's give you a look around the PWHL, starting with the two final scores in the month of February. And while we're at it, as you can see on our screen here for those who are watching the feed on YouTube, if this is on YouTube, of course, it most likely will drop if it's on a video format. We are video and audio for our program. But as you can see right there on the PWHL website, we have the finals from March's opening month of the schedule. Here are the finals, however, from the two games that followed Thursday, February 26, 2026, from the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. Of course, as we know, Montreal beat New York 4-1. You could watch the game when you were watching live on MSGSN 2 in the New York area. If you wanted the game in French, it was on RDS, and viewers in Canada could catch the game on TSN. If you're in the States or internationally, the PWHL does live stream the games for people within the States area, and of course, internationally, but avoid where prohibited. For more on the action and where to watch, all you got to do is click on schedule and go to where to watch. Or if you're on the team's website, all you got to go to is schedule and again, where to watch. All you got to do is that. A simple thing. On Friday night, that game was at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Mountain. No, 7 p.m. Pacific, I should say. 6 p.m. Mountain. We get a good one for the Toronto Scepters as they beat the Seattle Torrent from the home of the Seattle Torrent and the NHL's Seattle Kraken. 5-2 the final there. Toronto starts their stride out of the Olympic winter break on the right foot. They beat the Torrent 5-2. 3-2, Boston beats Ottawa. But hold everything. Since the Montreal last game, which was previously against Minnesota, after, of course, this game, which we are recapping right now, Boston, you might be in a bit of trouble, my friends. But they got the win against the Charge at TD Place in Ottawa. You could watch the game, which happened on Saturday, February 28th. That was yesterday, on CBC and CBC Gem on the Canadian side of things. Viewers in the States could also view this game on the YouTube channel, as well as you could view it internationally on the YouTube channel for PWHL Hockey. And if you were in the New England sports area, watch the game on NESN or the New England Sports Network, as it is called. Let's go to March, shall we? And that's got a whole bunch of games going on right now. Of course, every game today is done as we speak. Montreal victorious in their second game back from the Olympic winter break. They beat the Sirens, as we said, 4-1 on Thursday, February 26, 2026. On Sunday, March 1st, they beat in shutout fashion the defending Walter Cup champion Minnesota Frost 4-1 at Place Bell in Laval. Viewers could catch this game in the Minnesota area on FanDuel Sports Network, and you could also catch this game on RDS for those who want French viewing. Internationally and in the United States, it's available on the PWHL YouTube channel as well as the PWHL.com, the PWHL website, that is. And of course, we have it for Canadian viewers who want to view the game on Canadian television. It was available on Sportsnet. The other final of the day, Vancouver lost 2-1 to the Toronto Scepters from their home of the Pacific Coliseum in Vancouver, British Columbia. Viewers of the States could catch this one on the PWHL.com as well as the PWHL YouTube channel. You could also catch this one if you were in the Canadian area on TSN, as well as perhaps another station as well. But you could catch this definitely on TSN, Toronto and Vancouver. Toronto picks up another win. Just like Montreal, they are off to a good start. Montreal with a 4-0 win over Minnesota on March 1st. That's today. Toronto with a 2-1 win over the Vancouver Goldeneyes today as well. The two teams, by the way, will battle it out Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern from Coca-Cola Coliseum. But of course, the other final that Toronto had was a 5-2 win over the Torrent, in case you missed it. So they beat both expansion teams 5-2 and 2-1 today. That was against Vancouver. On Friday, they beat the Torrent 5-2 at Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle, Washington. Now Montreal, who has beaten the New York Sirens 4-1 and beaten, to kick off their March portion of the schedule, they have beaten the defending Walter Cup champion Minnesota Frost in shutout fashion. We shall see who gets the dub between Toronto and Montreal when the two teams clash on Tuesday night on Prime. It's on Tuesday. It's only on Prime. Prime Tuesday night hockey. Scepters Victoire from the Coca-Cola Coliseum at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also available on thepwhl.com and the PWHL YouTube channel internationally and in the States if you want to catch that one. Alrighty. It is about time for the play of the game. So without further ado, why don't we touch base on the play of the game? And for me, I gotta go with the goal scored by Casey O'Brien. Really put Montreal on their heels, despite the fact that Montreal was leading 3-0. And I do like the fact that Montreal didn't take their foot off the gas pedal in the third period. But I felt like the foot kind of came off the gas pedal a little bit in the second period. And of course, they took some penalties, one of which they killed off in the second period, two of which they killed off in the third. And the one penalty they took early second period was the goal that was good enough for my play of the game. Casey O'Brien, 5th goal of the year for her. She's having a pretty good year, in my opinion. But we're all entitled to our own opinion. So I really like that goal by Casey O'Brien. Honorable mention, the goal by former Siren J. Downey Landry. First goal as a member of the Montreal Victoire, former player of the New York Sirens, has now joined the opposing side, which is the Montreal Victoire. Okay, let's get to our stats here before we take a quick break. And when we take that break, that will be our final break of the program. From there, it will be time for the Women's Hockey Player of the Game as the show wraps up. But before we can get there, let's take a look at the other stats we didn't get to. We already went through the power play penalty minutes as well, penalty minutes, and we also went through the power play and penalty kill percentages, or rather how each team did on both sides of that of advantage, the man advantage and the disadvantage. But let's talk about the shots on goal. As you could see right there, we have New York leading the charge 10-5 at the end of one period of play. At the end of 40 minutes of play, it was 12-13 in favor of Montreal Victoire, but the Sirens were leading in the shots on goal category 22-18. Montreal gets 4 shots on goal in the third period. They ultimately are outshot 35-22 as the Sirens pick up 13 shots on goal in the third. Over in the face-off dot, we saw 53 face-offs in this one. Montreal winning 58.5% of those face-offs, winning 31 out of 53. The Sirens winning 41.5% of the face-offs, winning 22 out of 53. Not bad for the Sirens, and not bad for both teams in general. But Montreal got the points that count. They win 4-1, and they previously beat the defending Walter Cup champion, Minnesota Frost, earlier today, 4-0. Our attendance at the Prudential Center was 3,484 fans in attendance for a game that started 11 minutes after 7 p.m. Eastern and ended 41 minutes after 9 p.m. Eastern, taking at least 2 hours and 30 minutes to complete. The winning goaltender, Anne-Renee Desbiens. The loss to New York's starter, Kaylee Osborne, who started the game in the first 20 minutes of play, but did not see the final 40 minutes of play. She was taken off in the second period of action and would not finish the game. So with that said, we'll take a break. When we come back, Women's Hockey Player of the Game, Montreal. Next opponents leading up to their final showdown with New York. PWHL Recap wraps up after this quick word from our friends at the Musa Slobodian Network, and maybe we'll add in a quick word from our good buddies over at Sienna T Radio, making your day brighter one song at a time. Back after this from those words.
Sienna T Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on Sienna T Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on Sienna T Radio.
Hey Allie, did you know we have a books panel?
I did not know that. When is it?
It takes place on the last Friday of each month at 7:30 p.m. Eastern,
Where we have fun and engaging conversations.
about a book that one of the panelists picks.
So, how can I learn more about the show?
To learn more, please visit bookspanel.ca. While you're there, subscribe to the newsletter so you never miss an update. Besides, it's free. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
The Books Pen is part of the Musa Slobodian Network, where good conversations happen.
To learn more about the network, please visit themusaslobodiannetwork.ca. While you're over there, hit subscribe so you never miss a network update. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
Welcome back, folks, to PWHL Recap. My name is Scott McGregor. The topic of conversation, Montreal versus New York. The New York Sirens and the Montreal Victoire. Already in the show, we've gone over the game breakdown in the scoring and penalties. We've talked about the power play, penalty kill, shots on goal, face-offs, the scoreboard from February to March, final scores from March in case you missed it. Victoire beat the defending Walter Cup champion Minnesota Frost in shutout fashion, 4-0. Almost winded up the same score as it did on Thursday, February 26, 2026. The Toronto Scepters beat the Vancouver Goldeneyes 2-1. They also beat the Seattle Torrent on February 28th by a final score of 5-2. And of course, the Boston Fleet beat the Ottawa Charge in shootout fashion at TD Place on Saturday, February 28, 2026, yesterday. So folks, as this show winds down, we are going to get to the schedule for the PWHL upcoming, specifically in March, for the upcoming action. But before we do, let's take a look at where things stand even after Montreal just beat the New York Sirens. And of course, they just beat the Minnesota Frost. Well, look how the tides have turned. It's Montreal now ahead with 33 points, 9 wins, 3 overtime wins, no overtime losses, and 5 losses. Boston in at second place with 8 wins, 3 overtime wins, 2 overtime losses, and 2 losses. Minnesota with 7 wins, 2 overtime wins, 3 overtime losses, and 4 losses in general. They sit number 3. Boston in number 2. Montreal sitting pretty at number 1. Just 1 point ahead of the Boston Fleet, so they will be paying close attention to that Boston-New York game on Thursday, March 5th, which will only be New York's second game back since the Olympic winter break. They haven't played since February 20. Speaking of the Sirens, their record as we sit is still 7-0-3-7. They are in 4th place as we speak, and they, with Ottawa, hold on to the final 2 wildcard spots, or to the final 2, not wildcard, the final 2 playoff spots in contention. I should say actually Ottawa's out of it. It's actually Minnesota and New York who have those playoff spots, as it's the top 4 seeds that play into the playoffs. The bottom 4 are Ottawa, Toronto, and Vancouver, and Seattle. Toronto with 23 points. Ottawa also with 23 points. Sirens with 24 points. Minnesota 28. Boston 32. Montreal with 33. Ottawa's got 23, as does Toronto. 19 points for Vancouver. Seattle has 16 points and sits at a record 4-1-2-8. Vancouver with a record 5-1-2-9. The 2 expansion teams sit both in 7th and 8th place as they prepare for their next action, which I believe is not too far behind them. We shall see. But speaking of that, we have Montreal in 1st, Boston in 2nd, Minnesota in 3rd, the Sirens in 4th, Ottawa in 5th, Toronto in 6th, Vancouver 7th, and Seattle in 8th. As the run to Walter heats up. The run to the Walter Cup is heating up. And with that said, let's get right down to the Montreal Victoire and the New York Sirens women's hockey player of the game, starting off with the New York Sirens. And you know what? Despite everything that she went through and not being able to finish the game, I'm going to go to the backup for Kaylee Osborne, Kaylee Shanahan, who gave up only 1 goal, saw 16 shots, made 15 saves, and played quite a great number of minutes, 32 minutes and 45 seconds. She came in for Kaylee Osborne, who gave up 3 goals in the span of 23 minutes and 37 seconds, saw 6 shots, and made only 3 saves. Honorable mention also going to go out to assistant captain Sarah Fillier, 1 assist in the game for Sarah, 2 shots on goal, and Allison Simpson, 4 shots on goal for her. Didn't really see the face-off that much, was a -2, but registered a hit in this one. New York Sirens women's hockey player of the game, with an honorable mention to Kaylee Osborne, Allison Simpson, and Sarah Fillier, assistant captain, for their performances. I thought they were doing pretty well. You're entitled to your own opinion on who you would like, and you can let us know on our Discord server, WhatsApp group chat, in the YouTube comments, or in the Spotify comments, whatever you fancy, even by email at sportsforbeginnerspodcast80. But for me, this one is going to go to Lena Jungblom. Lena Jungblom is going to get my women's hockey player of the game. Honorable mention to Anne-Renee Desbiens, who stood on her head, as she always does, especially when she's going to get a shutout. She gave up only 1 goal, made 34 saves on 35 shots, and stopped pretty much almost everyone. There was only 1 goal, which came off the stick of Casey O'Brien that got right by Desbiens. So Montreal wins this one 4-1. Honorable mention to Amanda Boulier, who had 2 shots on goal, was a +1, didn't register a hit. Katie Tabin registered 2 hits and 1 shot on goal in 19 minutes and 29 seconds of ice time. And Dara Gregg, who had a goal in the game, had 4 shots on goal, 1 hit, and was a +2 for this one. So Lena Jungblom and Kaylee Shanahan, your women's hockey player of the games for me, for the Montreal Victoire and the New York Sirens. Okay, folks, rounding out the show here. Time now to take a look at the upcoming schedule for both squadrons. First, let's take a look at New York. Their opening schedule, as they go back to action on Thursday in March, we're going to go ahead and share the screen now, is against the Boston Fleet. Puck drops at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. The clocks go back following the timeline here. So the game between Ottawa and New York on Sunday, March 8th is at 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. You can catch both of those games for New York viewers if you are viewing in Canada on Sportsnet, as well as the PWHL YouTube channel. Plus, you can catch the action in the New York area for Ottawa and, of course, that Boston game. You can catch it on MSG. And if you're catching the Boston game in the New England sports area, watch it on New England Sports Network, NESN. Puck drop just after 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Puck drop for Ottawa and New York just after 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Then on Sunday, March 15th, it's the defending Walter Cup champion Minnesota Frost taking on the New York Sirens at 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Viewers in Canada can watch all of these games on Sportsnet leading up to March 5th. You can also watch it on the PWHL website in the United States as well as internationally, but avoid where prohibited. If you're in the New York area, you can watch it on MSG, NESN, and of course you could watch it on MSG-SN for that Minnesota game. And you'll also be able to catch the Minnesota game probably on the FanDuel Sports Network for Minnesota viewers in Minneapolis area. Rounding it out with, at 10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, a visit for the New York Sirens to Vancouver and the Pacific Coliseum. Watch it on TSN on Wednesday, March 18th. Puck drop just after 10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. MSG SN2 is where you can catch it on the New York side of things. And that is a road game for the Sirens. They will play at home to kick off the month of March with games against Ottawa and Boston in a 2-game short homestand. Hitting the road to Minnesota on Sunday, March 15th to kick off a road trip that will also see them go to Vancouver, Seattle, Montreal before they come back home to face Minnesota, Seattle, among teams that they will face at home down the stretch, ultimately finishing the season on the road with Boston and Toronto later in April. But let's keep it 1 month at a time. Let's go to Montreal. Their recent opening stretch of March has just opened up. They will take on Minnesota. They did take on Minnesota and beat Minnesota 4-0 on March 1st. That's today. Tuesday night on Prime, they take on the Toronto Scepters. Puck drop just after 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is another road game for them. So they were currently on the road when they headed for the Olympic winter break with a 3-0 shutout win over the Toronto Scepters last time the two teams met. They beat New York 4-1 coming out of the Olympic break, and most recently they have defeated the Walter Cup champion Minnesota Frost 4-1 as their road trip wraps up Tuesday before they come on home for a showdown on March 15th at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time against the Boston Fleet. Then the Seattle Torrent are in town on March 19th, Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And then on March 22nd, another Sunday game, 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Ottawa is hosting Montreal. And Montreal hits the road also to Minnesota, New York, and then, of course, Vancouver and Ottawa. They won't be back at home until April 7th, which is a Tuesday game. But without further ado, their upcoming games in March are against Toronto, Boston, Seattle, Ottawa, and then Minnesota. And then it's back to New York versus Montreal one last time. And folks, that is just about going to do it for this one. But I want to tell you that we will be doing a show just before we get busy with a lot of baseball coverage coming. So it's going to be hard to mix in the PWHL. We will see what we can do here. But this might be your last PWHL recap for a little while, as the baseball season starts on Friday night, March 27th at 7:07 p.m. Eastern for the Blue Jays. They will take on the Athletics to begin a series with the Athletics. But we're pushing for perhaps the game on March 1st, Saturday, when the Minnesota Frost battle the Vancouver Goldeneyes at 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Part of a Saturday doubleheader that we'll see also available on Sportsnet and NESN. A showdown between the Seattle Torrent and the Boston Fleet. But of course, there's a lot of action left to get to, so we will be back with you guys after a little bit of a big break. We'll be back with you guys after Minnesota and Vancouver, hopefully. Give you a look at what's going on between the Boston Fleet and the Seattle Torrent. But we'll definitely be back with you after Vancouver and Minnesota if we can. On the slate for upcoming PWHL action, Tuesday night we got Montreal and Toronto, one of Montreal's next games and second game in their March schedule. Then Ottawa's back in action as they take on the Seattle Torrent. New York gets back in action on March 5th. So you've got Toronto and Montreal in action on Tuesday, March 3rd. That's this Tuesday. This Wednesday, it's Seattle and Ottawa. Then this Thursday night, we've got the New York Sirens and the Boston Fleet. Then we got a Sunday doubleheader. Minnesota takes on Toronto. Ottawa takes on New York on Sunday, March 8th, and still lots more to come, including Tuesday, March 10th at 10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Boston takes on Vancouver, and then Seattle on Wednesday night from Climate Pledge Arena. That's March 11th. March 10th, they take on Vancouver at 10 p.m. Eastern on Prime and NESN Tuesday night. You won't want to miss a moment of the action. We'll be back with you on March 21st for another edition of PWHL Recap following the game on CBC and the FanDuel Sports Network between the defending Walter Cup champion Minnesota Frost and the Vancouver Goldeneyes. Still lots of hockey to be coming, but not a lot of time left to make pushes for the playoffs and most especially the Walter Cup. We'll be back with you after the game on Saturday, March 21st, the first of the doubleheader on March 21st, to break down Goldeneyes versus Frost, as well as many other games that have probably gone final by the time we record. But with that said, that likely will be our last PWHL recap for a little while as we try to work things around with baseball on the horizons. As for right now, March 28th, Sirens, Victoire close things out for the regular season. Who's going to get that one? Will it be Montreal? Will it be New York? One thing is certain, we don't know whether it's going to be a shutout, a shootout, or anything in between. That's it for us. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you on the next episode of PWHL Recap after the March 21st game between the Minnesota Frost and, yep, you heard me, the Minnesota Frost and the Vancouver Goldeneyes. Montreal wins it 4-1 against the New York Sirens on February 26, 2026. And they also, at the time that we are recording this, beat the defending Walter Cup champions 4-0. We'll catch up with you on the flip side after Frost versus Goldeneyes. But until then, I'm Scott McGregor saying so long for now from PWHL Recap. And remember, PWHL fans, ice time is always earned. See you on March 21st for another edition of PWHL Recap. Thank you so much for listening to Sports for Beginners. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can visit the podcast Facebook page or visit the official website. You can also send us an email at sportsforbeginnerspodcast8231@gmail.com. As we always remind you, it is not goodbye, it is until next time.